In this tutorial, we'll learn about CSS colors and how we can use them to make our web pages more attractive and visually appealing. Colors are an important part of web design because they can change the look and feel of a website. With CSS, we can easily add colors to text, backgrounds, borders, buttons, and many other elements on a web page. We'll be using the following HTML code throughout this tutorial to practice styling with CSS. Our HTML will contain a list of hobbies, including reading, swimming, and hiking, with a short description for each hobby. We'll use CSS to style these elements and learn how different colors can change the appearance of the web page. For example, we can use different colors for the hobby names, descriptions, headings, and backgrounds. As we go through the tutorial, we'll gradually apply different CSS color properties to our HTML and see how each change affects the overall design of the web page. This will help us understand how CSS colors work, while also giving us practical experience with styling real HTML elements. Before we start working with colors, we'll first add some basic styling to our web page. We'll set the font family to Verdana with a sans serif fallback, add a background color, and use padding and margin to create proper spacing and make the content look cleaner. These properties will give our web page a simple structure and make it easier to see the changes we'll make later with CSS colors. Once the basic styling is in place, we can focus on adding and experimenting with different colors for our headings, hobby names, descriptions, and other elements. Now let's start our CSS color demo by styling the page title. The page title is one of the first elements users will see, so adding some simple styling can make it stand out and give the web page a cleaner appearance. For the title, we'll use the color property to change the text to blue. We'll then add a bottom border using 3px solid dark blue. This creates a dark blue line underneath the title and helps separate the heading from the content below it. To give the title some breathing room, we'll add 10px of padding to the bottom. This creates space between the title text and the border. We'll also add a 30px bottom margin, which creates additional space between the title and the next section of the page. By combining color, borders, padding, and margins, we can make a simple page title look much more organized and visually appealing. This is also a good example of how CSS properties can work together to create a better overall design. The next step is to experiment with different colors. In CSS, we can easily change the color of an element by using the color property and choosing the color we want. For example, we can change the page title to blue, orange, green, violet, red, or almost any other color we prefer. This allows us to customize the appearance of our web page and create different styles depending on the design we want. Try experimenting with several different colors and see which ones work best with the rest of your design. This is a simple way to become more comfortable with CSS colors and understand how the color property works. Next, we can also experiment with the border color. Just like we changed the text color, we can change the color of the border to create different looks and styles. For example, instead of using dark blue, we can try colors such as green, purple, pink, dark red, or any other color we like. The border can be customized to match the text color, contrast with it, or complement the overall design of the web page. Changing the border color is a simple way to make the page title more noticeable and give the web page a different appearance. Try experimenting with several colors and see how each one changes the look of the title. This is a good opportunity to practice using CSS color properties and understand how small changes can make a big difference in the design of a web page. Next, we'll create the hobby title and use an RGB color to style it. RGB stands for red, green, and blue, and it allows us to create different colors by combining these three values. We can adjust the three RGB values to create colors such as red, green, blue, purple, and many other shades. We'll also add a 5px bottom margin to create a small amount of space between the hobby title and the description below it. This gives us another simple way to experiment with colors and understand how RGB works in CSS. To change the color of the hobby title, you can click on the color box in your CSS editor. This will open a color picker where you can choose the color you want. Simply select your desired color and the hobby title will automatically update to that color. You can experiment with different shades and colors until you find one that works well with your web page design. This makes it easy to customize each hobby title and see the color changes instantly. Next, we'll create the hobby description and add some styling to make the text easier to read and more visually appealing. First, we'll set the description color to Violet N at an Alice blue background color. We'll then use padding 16px 20px to add some space around the text so it doesn't feel too close to the edges. To make the description box look smoother, we'll add a border radius of 8px, which gives the corners a slightly rounded appearance. We'll also set the line height to 1.6 to provide comfortable spacing between lines of text. Finally, we'll set the top margin to 0 and the bottom margin to 30px. This controls the spacing around each description and keeps the different hobby sections nicely separated from one another. Together, these properties create a clean and comfortable layout for displaying each hobby description. We can also experiment with changing the color of the hobby description. Instead of using just one color, we can try different options such as violet, brown, dark golden road, black, or any other color we prefer. To change the color, simply select the color property and choose the desired color. You can use the color picker to experiment with different shades and find one that looks good with the Alice blue background. Try changing the description to several different colors and compare the results. This is a great way to see how different text colors work with a background and how they can change the overall appearance of the web page. Next, we can experiment with the background color of the hobby description. Instead of using only Alice blue, we can try other light colors such as light cyan, light pink, light yellow, lavender, and many more. Changing the background color can give each hobby description a different look while keeping the text easy to read. You can use the color picker to select a color and see the changes immediately. Try experimenting with different background colors and choose the one that best matches your text color and overall web page design. Next, we'll add a hover effect to the hobby title. This allows the title color to change when the user moves their mouse over it. For the hover color, we'll use an RGBA value, which gives us control over the red, green, blue, and alpha values. We'll also add a color transition, so the change happens smoothly instead of instantly. Using transition, color 0.3s ease creates a simple and smooth animation when the hobby title changes color on hover. You can experiment with different RGBA values to create different hover colors and make the web page more interactive. You can use the color picker to choose the RGBA color you want for the hover effect. Select your desired color and adjust the values until you get the look you like. Once you've chosen the color, move your mouse over the hobby title to see the hover effect in action. You'll notice that the title smoothly changes to the new color because of the transition we added. Try experimenting with different colors and see how each one looks when you hover over the hobby title. RGBA is a CSS color format that stands for red, green, blue, and alpha. The first three values control the amount of red, green, and blue in the color, while the fourth value controls the transparency. RGBA is useful because it gives us more control over how colors appear on a web page. We can create different shades and make colors part of transparent, which is especially useful for backgrounds, hover effects, overlays, and other visual effects. For example, an alpha value of 1 makes the color fully visible, while a value such as 0.5 makes it semi-transparent. Next, we'll add a hover effect to the hobby card. This will allow the background color of the card to change when we move the mouse over it. For the hover effect, we'll use an RGBA color for the background. This allows us to choose a specific color while also controlling its transparency. We'll then add a transition using transition. Background color 0.3s ease, which makes the color change happen smoothly instead of changing instantly. This creates a simple interactive effect that makes the hobby cards feel more dynamic. Move your mouse over the hobby card to see the background colors smoothly change, and try using the color picker to experiment with different RGBA colors. Background colors are important when creating smooth CSS transitions because they make the change between two states more noticeable. When we use a hover effect, the background color can gradually change from its original color to a new color instead of changing instantly. We can experiment with different background colors, including RGBA colors, to create subtle or stronger effects. This helps improve the overall appearance of the hobby cards and makes the web page more interactive for the user. And that concludes our tutorial on CSS colors. Today, we learned how to use different colors, RGB, RGBA, background colors, and hover effects to style our web page.